the videos that do really well in Reels never do well on TikTok, and the videos that do really well on TikTok never do well on Reels.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 27, and today we are chatting with Sarah Kleist from Kleist Creative. You likely have heard her name pop up before. We adore her and partner with her all the time for our own business and our clients. She is a wizard when it comes to show it web design, but today we're talking to her about something else, TikTok. Did you know that she is an absolute queen on TikTok? She's gone viral and made connections with the rich and famous on this platform, and we wanted you to hear all about it. Get your app ready, friends, because after this episode, you'll be more than excited to get started today.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you so much for being on the Duo On Air podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
If anyone follows us on Instagram, they know that you are not a stranger to any of the people that follow us. We love you and work with you all the time with our own business and our clients. And we're just so excited to have you on to talk about everything you know.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about you and the business that you have, the amazing business that you have.
I am a lot of things. I am a website designer, which is how you guys primarily know me and how we primarily work together. But I also am an actor, and I do a little bit of TikTok content creation for brands now, actually too. And I am a TikToker apart from that on my own channel myself. So that's how I'm here, and that's how we're chatting about this today.
That's awesome. You're like the definition of multi-passionate.
I think I'm just easily bored. So I'm I need to keep moving and doing new stuff. Otherwise everything gets stagnant for me.
I love it.
That's amazing. I wish I had that. Well, I don't feel like I ever get bored because I feel like I'm always doing stuff. But the fact that you are just doing it all, I'm like, how does she do this? I wish I could do this.
I don't sleep. I also don't have kids, which I feel like a lot of people in this space have kids, and I don't have that. So
your kids are your things. The things.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. All right. So typically, like you had said, most people know you from web design, but I want to hear a little bit more about the content creation you're doing for TikTok. So we're going to come back to that. So let's table that so we can talk about it later. Yeah. But we wanted to have you on to talk about all things TikTok, because not only we know, just like us, so many of our followers are either lost in the space, confused, or overwhelmed. And I think just shedding some light on how we can use TikTok better, and whether I'd love to hear your opinions on whether we should even be there. So tell us a little bit, because you are TikTok famous, so to speak, to us. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in TikTok, or when.
Okay, so it was May 2020, as many TikTok fame stories go, and everyone was talking about this new app, and I was like, I cannot possibly download another social media app. There's literally no way. I will literally not do anything. Not that I was doing anything. So also for context for everyone, before the pandemic, I was working in a restaurant. And then I live in New York City, so everything shut down, and literally the entire world shut down. No one was on the streets in New York. It was the deadest I've ever seen anything in my life. So I was extremely bored, and I was on unemployment and just grasping at straws for things to do. So I don't know why I was so worried about wasting time on TikTok because I literally had nothing to do anyway. So like, I don't know. But one of my acting teachers was like talking about how she doesn't use a lot of the social media platforms, but she has her handle on all the social media platforms because you should like claim your handle because we're like whatever, like the only generation that's ever going to be able to like get our own domain names and like our own email addresses with our actual names, like, which I thought was a really good point. And so I was like, shoot, okay, I should go get my handle on TikTok. So I like downloaded TikTok, reserved my name or whatever. And then spoiler alert, someone already had it. And I was like, this is annoying. But eventually, you know, I'm downloading the app. I signed up. I like grabbed my last name at least. And the For You page, which is like the main page, like caught my attention as it does. And I was like, what is this? Like, what are people doing on here? And so I just started scrolling and the rest is truly history because I was hooked within like 3 videos.
That is amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I remember when we first got on, well, Abby and I were talking about it and I was like, okay, fine, I'll download this app. I'll try to figure it out. And I was doing a few things and I immediately got addicted to just like the videos and stuff. And then I recorded one and I sent it to her and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. And then I think I got so caught up in like the business side of it. I think if I had my personal one, I would have so much fun just being weird on there and just doing videos. But I got so hung up on the business side of it that I was like, oh my gosh, how do you show up on TikTok? Because it's so much different than Instagram. So that's where we kind of stopped with TikTok. We definitely need to get better at TikTok.
Yeah. So tell us actually, and I'm curious. So do you think TikTok, you need to have a strategy like you do Instagram? Like Instagram has somewhat of, you can be fun and playful, but you also need to have a strategy in order to succeed there. On TikTok, do you think it's the same? Do you think there is such thing as a strategy behind it?
I think you have to find out what works for you because I have tried doing TikTok both ways. So like, okay, when I first started my account, I had like zero strategy and I was just like posting whatever like came to my mind. And that was like doing super well. And like I would record stuff on the fly. Like I would record a video in like 2 seconds, like I thought I had, and then like people would like it. And then once I started really like thinking like, oh, I should use this for my business, I was like, great, I'm gonna put a strategy behind it. And I started like planning out all this content and planning out like, okay, if I record this, then I can like lead them to this lead magnet and like all this stuff. And that everything flopped. Like no one paid attention when I did anything like that. And but there are other people who do really well on TikTok doing that kind of content and that kind of stuff. So I think you just have to know yourself. I think for me particularly, most of my content is like talking at the camera. So I'm not doing like a lot of like lip syncing or like trends or whatever. And so I think for my style, people can tell when I've like pre-planned something versus when something's like just organically in the moment, like an idea I had or something I'm genuinely excited about. So I think it just depends on you. If you can strategically plan your content and, you know, put on like a genuine, like just thought of this in the moment kind of vibe, that's amazing. I don't, for whatever reason, I just like can't. And I'm an actor, so you'd think I could, but like yeah. So I think you just have to know yourself.
Yeah, I like that approach. I mean, kind of a trial and error as is with anything though. It's the same as it goes with Instagram. You think something's going to do awesome and then it doesn't. So, I'm sure just that trial and error approach is definitely something that makes a lot of sense. And I think if you feel more confident about the content you're creating, that's going to show, and typically performance is going to ladder back to that confidence.
Totally. I totally agree.
So you just brought up about like the trends and everything, and you don't do that. You're not dancing, you're not singing or following these hot trends or whatever. And that works for you. Do you see that as something that's kind of phasing out on TikTok, or do you think it's like totally this person's jam, but not your jam? So it's literally just whatever works for you on TikTok, or do you think it's going more towards that like organic, just speaking to somebody in a video format?
I would say it's like half and half. I think there's like a lot of trends content still happening. But I do feel like the people who build, at least for like from a personal brand standpoint, people who build like really solid personal brands that people like love to follow and like want to keep up with, those people are like talking to the camera. And I think there's just something really personable about that. And also like when you're talking, you can like tell stories. Storytelling content does super well, and like as we know, like storytelling builds human connection and all that. So I think like, not to say like don't do trends, it won't do anything. Like it's fun to do trends and like simple usually most of the time, but I do think talking content is where you like build relationships.
Yeah. I think too, that just seems so much, it takes so much pressure off. And it doesn't seem like this big thing that you have to like set so much time aside and you have to learn this dance and you have to sing and you have to do all these things that might make you uncomfortable. Whereas just talking to the camera and talking to the people that are following you is just so much less pressure and it's just easier.
It's an easy way in for sure.
Yeah. I never understood actually why, like there are people that only do like the trends or like the memes or whatever. And for me, that takes so much longer to put together. Like it's so easy for me to just like sit at my phone, be like, okay, ramble off on some like whatever, and then hit draft or hit post or whatever. Like it's so much easier for me to just talk. So I've never understood why people do that.
Yeah, it is funnier, I think, sometimes, like the first time you see it though. The second time you see it, you're like, yeah, I've seen that before. Still kind of funny. And the third time you see it, you're like over it. So the hardest thing about those is that they go so fast. So
and everybody starts doing it. And then you're like, well, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
It's just annoying.
I think it could still work if you found your own rather than like grabbing someone else's that you've seen. You have to just like randomly be watching a movie or a TV show and be like, wow, that would be really funny if I recorded myself saying that. Like if you are the end starter, I think it could work really well.
I also think like, I think actually the biggest success for people on TikTok is if you find like a bit, like if you find a bit that you can repeat daily, ideally, that is like the best thing you can do and the fastest way to like grow, I think. So like what I mean by that is like, you know, I don't know if you know, there's this guy, he is like obsessed with cars. He never comes up on my FYP because I feel like he's like for the straight dudes, but like my boyfriend, he's always on my boyfriend's reels. And he like goes up to people at car shows and he'll be like, this is an amazing car. What do you do for a living? And then they like tell him whatever fancy like job they have. And it's like always like billionaires. And so all of his content is like him just going up to people with a microphone being like, what do you do for a living? This car is amazing. And then they laugh. And now he's been doing it for so long and built such a following that like people will be like, oh, you're that guy. And then they'll answer what they do for a living. So it's like, that's like a whole bit that he does now. And like, if you can find something like that, that's like, you can repeat and do, that is like the best. But it's like, that is the hardest thing to find because it's like, what are you going to do every day that like also pertains to your business that like, you know, can grow something in a way that you actually really care about. So that's what I'm on the search for. I'm on the search for a bit. Like
now that you said that, I'm gonna just like start brainstorming. I'm just gonna text Abby like all these bits, be like, what do you think? What do you think?
I know. Yeah, that is like the magic sauce. So what do you think? Because I feel like there's two strategies when it comes to TikTok, like before you have a link and after you have a link, right? Because I think that's the hardest part, at least in our mindset of the transition from Instagram to TikTok, is because we don't have like a strong call to action yet. And I'm sure so many of our listeners also might feel that way. So do you think you should have a strategy before you get a link and compared to like what you should be doing afterwards? And actually, even if you could help explain too, like what are the rules? Like at what point do you finally get to that stage in TikTok?
Yeah.
I think you get a link after 1,000 followers. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember because I think the rules were different back when I started.
And I think they're different for business versus personal.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
The type of account you have.
I mean, I would just say if you don't have a link, like don't try to drive anyone anywhere because no one's going to go anywhere. I would say just solely focus on providing helpful content that people would want to follow you for until you can drive people to the link. But also be careful about driving people to the link too much, because I feel like the algorithm doesn't like that. I have no like evidence to back this up, but I feel like they want to keep people on their app. So if you're driving someone off the app too much, they're gonna like not love that. But in terms of like other strategies that you can implement early on, I think training your algorithm is really, really important, especially when you first get on the app. So like when you first make an account, just like making sure you're following like other accounts that are like within your industry, within your niche, and just like teaching it to like know what kind of content you are interested in and therefore might be posting. Also just like spending time on the app. Like I feel like I have no like I'm not an engineer at TikTok. I did not build this algorithm, but like I'm pretty sure it like knows how long you spend on there, and like I think it takes into an account like, oh, you watch this video for 10 seconds versus this video for 30 seconds. Like I think it really does pay attention to all those things. And so just being really mindful about if you have a business account or a personal account that is meant for your business, just like being really intentional about what content you're consuming, and then it'll train the algorithm a little for you.
Yeah.
Is it kind of the same as Instagram too, where they encourage you to engage with different users and videos and all of that?
Yeah, I would. I also would like try to, people have different thought. Well, if you have a viral video and you have like 100,000 comments, like you obviously can't reply to all the comments, but like I would say try to reply to as many comments as you can, like without spending your whole entire life on TikTok. Like it can be a lot on TikTok because people are so like comment and share wild on there, but definitely engage.
Yeah.
What do you think is better, personal or business account, if people are just starting?
Definitely personal. I would say keep it personal until someone yells at you.
And then you can switch, though. You don't lose anything or by switching from personal to business.
I have actually switched ours back and forth a couple of times because I read different things online and they're like, you should be business, you should be personal. And I'm like, well, shoot, I don't know. So I've switched ours a couple times.
I feel like maybe like, I don't know if it's like a legal thing that you have, if you're a business, like you have to like say you're a business. That's why I'm kind of like, I would just leave it till personal until someone yells at you and just like play dumb about it. But mostly because I'm pretty sure, and I feel this way about Instagram too, even though I think my Instagram account is a business account, but I'm pretty sure they know that if you're running a business that you eventually will be willing to spend money on ads. And so they might give you purposely crappy engagement so that you will feel compelled to spend money on ads. So that's
interesting. I like you're on it so much more than so many of us include, for sure. Like we need to be on it more. But I think your perspective on that too, and just like knowing based on like what's performed well for you, like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of performance and doing well, it seems to be everybody's dream to go viral, whether that's on TikTok or Instagram. And you went viral. So we want to know kind of like, is it worth it? Or, how did that make you feel? Just anything about going viral.
Yeah. Well, so so like, it depends. I would say it's worth it. Like, I feel like I've made some like really cool friends on TikTok or connections. Like sometimes I'll be scrolling on, the For You page and I'll see someone made a video and it'll say in the bottom, like follows you. If they follow you, and like sometimes it'll be really cool people and I'm like, oh my god, they follow me, and then I'll like follow them back, and then I can like connect with those people now, which like that part's really cool. Like to me, I'm like, okay, like that's a cool creator I respect, I can like chat with them now, like whatever. So that part is fun. Sometimes, okay, so virality is fickle, and once you get it, you're like chasing it constantly and upset when you're not. So that part sucks. Um, and I find that it really taught me that no matter how many bases I try to cover in whatever topic I'm talking about, like no matter how much I say to be like, this doesn't apply to everyone or whatever, like someone in the comments will always be like, well, blah, 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 or this situation, it doesn't apply or whatever. And so it has really taught me to be like, you will never please everyone. Like there's just literally no way there's nothing you can say to make sure that no one's going to comment something annoying. So,
Right. So it definitely has its pros and cons.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
I feel like one of the reasons why we love you so much is like asking you whether viral is worth it. And you're like, yeah, because of the community and the people I get to meet. And like, that is like, I just want to like give you a hug right now because that's so awesome. Like, that's the whole point of social media, though. It's like to connect with people. I think you go viral and your sales and your clients go through the roof because all of a sudden everyone knows you and you're amazing. And it's like, that's not the point. The point is to reach new people and make new connections, which can lead to new opportunities. So I
Mhm.
think that perspective of going viral is cool.
Oh, thanks. I will say, like, like, I haven't gotten that many like clients from TikTok, a couple, but I'm also not using it as like a means to only that. Like it is very like lifestyle-y and like personal brandy over there. Um, but it is, yeah, it's fun to like be able to connect with people and also like, I don't know, it's a fun app. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of times, like, it's so important to set goals before you even start a new platform, anyways, of like what your goal is. Because if your goal is only to like increase sales or get more clients, like, then you should probably be in very specific spots for that. Whereas, like, these kind of like Instagram even is a little bit like this, but TikTok definitely is much more community. And like, the people you get to meet and the connections you have, like, could lead to speaking opportunities. It could lead to podcast guest interviews. It could lead to all of these opportunities for you to get a broader reach and awareness amongst your audience. So there's so much more to it than just going after all of these new platforms just to drive revenue, for example.
I think that's
Totally.
where a lot of people get stuck. They're just like, oh my gosh, here's a new app. Here's a new way to be social with people. I need to be on it because if I'm not on it, I'm not going to get more clients or make more sales. And that's just like such the wrong mindset. I think I'm like, we know we should be on TikTok, but right now we're pouring way more into Instagram than we are TikTok. And I think that's just a personal preference and we don't know TikTok as well as we do Instagram.
Yeah.
So, but like
It's hard to start something new.
Yeah.
As everyone feels that for sure.
And we
Yeah.
we love being there for the community and for meeting people. And like we would have, like
Yeah.
like we're best friends. So I think that's just a huge part of it is just being a part of that community and meeting people versus always trying to go for another client or that next
Mhm.
sale.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I also think that mindset of not necessarily trying to convert people can really help with the algorithm stuff. Like,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
I think videos perform better. I almost like, I don't know, like I sometimes see business content on TikTok and I'm like, that is cool and great. But if I scroll, I know I'll find like a comedy video and I'd much rather watch that right now. So I'm like, how can we build a following and like provide value for people without always having a call to action and like letting people find the call to action, when they're interested or whatever, and like focus on the relationship building, especially on TikTok. But yeah, that's just something I've been thinking about recently.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think you can sell your business and sell your things without actually being salesy. Like there
Yeah.
are so many, you can tell stories, you can share like just your own stories or your client stories or like all of that kind of stuff speaks to people without actually saying like buy my product or buy or sign up for a service with me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of Instagram, what would you say is the biggest difference between the two platforms? Like how, because a lot of people just lump them together. It's like Reels and TikToks are the same thing, which I don't think it is that way at all. So I'd love for your perspective of like what the difference between the two platforms is from a business standpoint.
Yeah. So I think overall, I think TikTok is like steeped in Gen Z culture. Not that you have to be Gen Z to use it, but I think like you kind of have to get the cadence and the vibe of that whole energy to like do well on TikTok. Whereas Reels is very much steeped in millennial culture and that whole energy and vibe. Not that you have to be a millennial to be on it, but I think it's like really telling that these apps were like adopted by two different generations, and I feel like you can still really feel it even though many age groups are on both. So that's like the one major thing. And I will also say, like, I have posted the same content to both accounts, to both my Reels and also my TikTok. And it's really interesting how the videos that do really well in Reels never do well on TikTok, and the videos that do really well on TikTok never do well on Reels. So like it's just further proof that like they actually are really, really different. And it just depends. It just really depends.
Do you think on that note too, do you think content like repurposing your content works? Or is it that you truly like have to create two different sets of things for each of those platforms?
I mean, if you want to get wild and you're trying to grow a platform on both, like you could, but like, I don't know if you have a social media team, like go for it. But like, if you're like a solopreneur or like a freelancer or like just starting up your business or whatever, like I would just create the same and like post to both, see what happens. Because also there's no hard and fast rule either. Like you never know what's going to do well. And also, yeah, it's just impossible to, I think it would be even impossible to even try to say what would do well versus the other.
Do you just repurpose the exact same thing and like download the video first and then upload it? Or do you change them slightly, like make TikTok a little bit shorter or something like that? Or do you typically just do them exactly the same?
I just do them exactly the same, but I'm also lazy. I'm sure people have other hacks that are like better. But also like, I don't know, I feel like someone who was really invested in both TikTok and Reels would be a better like question. That would be a better question for them, because I feel like I put all of my stock and creativity into creating TikToks, and then I just repost them to Reels, and I'm like, I don't care. Reels, like
I
take
think
it or
that's
leave it.
important. I mean, we tell that to our clients all the time is where until you have extra help, you need to go all in on something. Like something needs to be your priority. And I think that's going to be different for everyone because it's going to be where they're most comfortable. And again, where you're most comfortable is where you're going to see the best performance anyways. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And then repurposing elsewhere, because we are not superhumans, we all need to actually do work outside of just content creation. So
Yeah.
I will say somewhere that I find to repurpose even more effective than Reels is on Pinterest, as idea pins. Those always do really well. So
you take your TikToks and repurpose them as idea pins on Pinterest.
yeah.
I think a lot of people forget about Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Also, Pinterest, I feel like is prioritizing video content too now.
Yeah.
So
everyone is everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've even seen that on Google. I mean, our best performing blog post has a YouTube video with it. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, I think video is just going to be the new piece of content that performs the best across every platform.
Yeah. Also, TikToks they rank on Google now, right?
Yep. Yeah. I believe they got indexed along with Instagram. So that stuff can all pop up too, which is, awesome. Just another layer of like searchability, foundability.
Yeah. I feel like I figured that out because when I Googled myself recently, I saw like TikTok videos come up and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Amazing.
So, oh, sorry.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a quick question just about like recording TikToks. So, and repurposing content. Do you record all of your TikToks in the app? Like, is that better? And then you download and then remove the watermark before you put it anywhere else? Or how do you record and repurpose your content?
I record everything in the TikTok app because every time I have recorded outside the app and then like edited in whatever Final Cut and then downloaded it to my phone and then whatever, not only does it take a million years, but also like TikTok does not want to show it to anyone. Like no one ever sees it. And I think they have some like bias towards videos created in app, which makes sense.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I use a like watermarkless downloader on the internet to download from TikTok and upload to Reels.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a question that a lot of people ask just because, yeah, repurposing needs to happen in order for us all to stay sane. But then understanding the intricacies behind like, okay, I'm going to repurpose, but I want it to still perform as best as it possibly can, even if it's not going to be as good as it is on the original platform anyways.
Totally. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so tell us for anyone listening who is not on TikTok yet, like what is the easiest way to get started? Like, what do you recommend for someone who's not there but wants to be there?
I would say like take the pressure off yourself for like a month and like download the app, make an account, and like just give yourself a month to like just be a consumer of the content. Like I feel like that's what I did. Although it was accidental, I did not ever set out to become like a TikToker, but I downloaded the app, spent like literally a month scrolling, wasted away for a month, and was just like, I could create content, I could do this. And I feel like, if you are new to the app, just like become a consumer and like see what people are doing, see what works. You'll get more of like the vibe that way. I think a lot of, especially like millennial people are like, I don't have TikTok because I'm like overwhelmed and like I just watch reels. And I'm like, it's a very millennial thing to do, but like it's no different than reels. Like it's, it's all the same kinds of content, except maybe just like the kinds of things that go viral are just a little different, maybe sometimes. So if you are at all consuming reels content, like TikTok's not going to be that much crazy different. Just like allow yourself some time to be an audience member and then dip your toe in when you feel inspired or compelled.
I like that. Do you think any businesses shouldn't be on TikTok?
No.
No.
I think there's a place for literally everything. Early on in the pandemic, there was a TikTok account that I loved so much that I would literally look them up every night. Actually, I had a list of like 10 that I would like search in the search bar because it doesn't always come up in your feed, obviously, just to consume all their content. And one of the accounts that I was obsessed with was this guy, and he worked at a paint store, like literally like Sherwin-Williams or whatever that brand is, and he would mix paint. And everyone in the comments would try to guess what color it was going to be by the end of the video. And like it was like a game where you would like try to see if you could figure out what color it was going to be based on the colors that he put in. And like, it's a paint store. And like the paint store went viral. Like it's literally like part of a hardware store. Like that is so not what you think would do well on TikTok, but it was like so entertaining and so great. So
yeah, I like that. And I think to your point, you can't just jump on there from being active on Instagram and just assume the same stuff is going to work, like you said, because it doesn't. So I think taking that time to just be a consumer, like that's my takeaway from all of this, is that I need to do that because I don't open that app nearly as much as I open Instagram. But I think consuming the content naturally gives you those ideas. And if you just quickly open up your notes app and write down a few ideas of things that captured your attention or things that you've liked. I mean, we always used to we do save content that like inspires us, even if we don't have an idea of how we could do that. it just like is inspiration for like some time later when we are maybe in more of an inspirational mindset to help think of how we could reuse that in our own unique way.
Yeah. Also, I think like, I don't spend that much time on Reels, but every time I go on the Reels tab on my web design account, like every reel looks stunning. Like I feel like people have like, they use videographers to like get beautiful, like whatever. And that is so not the vibe on TikTok, to the point where I'm like, I feel like half the reason so many people are like scared to like start their TikTok is because they don't realize that it's literally just a bunch of like 23-year-olds like with their smudgy, blurry iPhone camera, like saying stuff because they see on Reels all this beautifully shot videography. It's like not the vibe at all, which is why I'm like, just get started on TikTok. No one cares. Like, set up your phone, like get in front of a window if you simply must have some natural light. But like, I didn't for like years. I just moved into an apartment with natural light. So yeah.
I think it's one of those things, where you just have to remind yourself that you don't have to show up perfect. Like Instagram almost has this just effect on people where they're like, oh, it's got to be perfect and I have to have my curated feed and like everything has to match and look like my brand. But TikTok is so far from that, which I think that's where I struggled a little bit too, where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have my makeup on, or I'm not wearing a brand color, or like this doesn't look like my Instagram feed. And I think I finally just had to tell myself, like, it doesn't matter. You can just like show up in your pajamas and talk to your audience, and like they don't care. Like, you're just there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think showing, and like you said, I mean, just do it, because even if no one cares and no one watches it, you're no different than how you were before. No one was watching it because you weren't creating it. So it's like you really have nothing to lose other than just taking an opportunity to maybe connect with some new people.
That's so true. Also, like, the thing about TikTok is that like you don't have to tell any of your friends or family that you're on it. Like, you can just keep it secret forever.
My mom,
and like,
what is that? Like the sound that a clock makes? Like TikTok?
Yeah. Whereas like Instagram, like I feel like even if you make a new account on Instagram, I feel like it notifies everyone you know, being like, this person's has a new account, and then all of a sudden everyone knows you have this new account, and it's like scary. But like on TikTok, I'm pretty sure it's still like relatively like you can make it secret until you're famous, and then you're like, see, I'm famous now, you're all welcome to follow me, and then everyone thinks you're cool. So
I love it. That's great.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to share or let people know about this lovely app, TikTok?
I don't know. No, I guess just have fun with it. Just have fun.
That's good.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know. I'm curious to see how TikTok evolves, because now it's been like in the cultural lexicon for like 2 years. And I'm very interested to see like if the growth opportunities will still be the same in the next year or two, or if it will be kind of like Instagram, where like it was super easy to grow in the beginning, and then as more and more advertisers got on it, it became less so. So more than ever, I'm like, get on it now, because I don't know how long it's going to be as like organic, I think, as it is currently.
Yeah, I like that perspective. That is a good driver.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are getting fed up with Instagram because there's a new rule every single day, and you're like, how do I even keep up? Like, I can't. You're always making me pivot, and it gets exhausting.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on with us today, and tell everyone where they can go find you and follow you. We'll have everything in the show notes so that everyone can go and click through to all the links, but just let them know.
Yeah. So my TikTok is skleist, SKLEIST. And then my website is www.sarahkleist.com. I do website design primarily. And I'm also an actor and all that stuff. So you can find all that there. And yeah, hire me for web design and hire Joel for branding so that we can collab.
We do collaborations all the time with our clients.
Yeah.
We freaking love it. It's so much fun. Oh, well, thank you so much. We're so glad
Thank
to have you
you.
today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
If you liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.